Hey guys, it's Sagar and here is my detailed camera review of the iPhone 13. Now you guys know that I got this phone on the launch day itself, so I could have posted this camera review a lot sooner. But there are a lot of new features on this iPhone 13's camera and I wanted to test them out in various lighting conditions. Now that I am satisfied with the image and video samples which I took, I am happy to share this camera review with you guys. Now the iPhone 13 and 13 mini have the exact same set of cameras, so if you are looking to get the iPhone 13 mini, you can still continue watching this video. Now you guys might be wondering why I am showing you the box of the phone and not the phone itself. Well, that is because this video is being recorded on the iPhone 13 in the cinematic mode. This should give you an idea how this phone performs in real life. You guys could let me know in the comments how the cinematic mode is performing according to you. Before we get to those image and video samples, let us check out the cameras that we are working with and the new features that it offers you. From the outside, the only change that you might notice in these cameras is their new diagonal orientation. The reason for this new placement is the much larger sensor and lenses on the new wide camera. The main camera, while still retains the 12 megapixel resolution, the actual size of the sensor is now much larger, increasing the size of each individual pixels to 1.7 microns. It gets f1.6 aperture, 26mm lens and sensor shift stabilization. These specs might sound similar to you, because this is the exact same main camera that we saw on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Last year, 12 Pro Max got the biggest and the best main camera of the entire iPhone lineup, and this year we get that same camera on the iPhone 13 and 13 mini, which should result in much better images. As far as I can tell, the ultra-wide angle lens remains the same as last year. It gets a 12 megapixel sensor, f2.4 aperture and a 13mm lens. Apple says that it's also new and improved, but all the specs sound exactly like the ultra-wide camera on the iPhone 12, so I really can't tell how it has improved. Maybe the software processing for this specific lens is tweaked to get a bit more information out of it, but we will see if it has really improved when we look at its images. You can shoot 4K videos in 24, 30 and 60 fps with both cameras, with extended dynamic range at up to 60 fps. This time, you can shoot Dolby Vision HDR videos at up to 4K 60 fps, and you can also shoot 1080p videos at 30 or 60 fps and 1080p slow motion videos at 120 or 240 fps. At the front, iPhone 13 comes with the same 12 megapixel true depth camera with f2.2 aperture and 23mm lens as we saw on the iPhone 12. This year, we get a few new features or shooting options in the camera app. First of all, you get photographic styles. To see this option, you will have to swipe up on the viewfinder or tap on this small arrow at the top, then select this multi-frame like icon. And now you can choose between different photographic styles. You can choose between standard, rich contrast, vibrant, warm and cool. You can also further customize these to your preferred settings. These are not just filters that you apply on top of your images, but these styles are baked into your images if you use them, which means you cannot undo them after you have clicked the image. Then for shooting videos, you get a new cinematic mode. In easier terms, this is portrait mode but for videos. Now this is not exactly new, and iPhones are not the first smartphones to do this. In fact, some Android phones have been able to do this for over 2 years. But it works a bit different on these new iPhones. This mode can detect objects and people in the shot and focus on them automatically. And it can even change the focus depending on where it thinks the person is looking at and gets that area of the scene in focus, which is really cool. There is a lot more to it, and I think this is one of the best portrait mode video that I have seen come out of any smartphone. Before we get to the image and video samples, if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon next to it. That way, you won't miss out on any of the amazing videos coming up on this channel. I'm trying to get this channel to 200k subscribers by the end of this year, and here is your chance to help me get there. I took a lot of images in various lighting conditions. Let us begin by looking at the ones which I took in bright daylight. The new bigger sensor combined with the wider aperture helps you capture a lot more information in these daytime shots. Everything in these images look very sharp even if you zoom in on them. I will be comparing these images with the ones on the iPhone 12 in my next video, but I feel these images have slightly more details in them. These shots look good and natural, and there is no unnecessary sharpening or anything of that sorts in these images, which is nice. Normally, I have always liked the colors coming out of iPhones, but in an effort to capture more details in the darker areas, iPhone XS, 11 and 12 sometimes make the image a bit too flat. This time, Apple will let you choose the look of your choice while taking these images. Now you get photographic styles where you can choose the type of images that you want to take. After trying out all these modes, I settled on the rich contrast look for my photographic style. Now you look at these images and let me know in the comments which ones do you like. Although I like the rich contrast look, I kept it set to standard for rest of the images in this video. The main camera can capture 47% more light. This fact might not matter so much in bright lighting conditions like these, but it helps when the situations are cloudy and overcast. Even in these lighting conditions, we see a ton of details in these images. The shutter speed is slower in these lighting conditions, letting the sensor gather more light. This is possible thanks to sensor shift image stabilization. Overall color temperature and white balance in these images match perfectly with how the scene looked in real life. There is no weird shift in color or a cool or warm tint in these shots. They look exactly how I was seeing the scene with my own eyes. Not just the color temperature, but the overall colors of all the elements in the scene also look natural and very good, and they are not too saturated. Now, most of the iPhones before this added a bit of warmth to its shots, but this time Apple seems to have tweaked the image processing and the colors are kept untouched. Depending on your color preference, you may or may not like this look. If you prefer slightly more vibrance in your shots, or if you want the overall colors to be cooler or warmer, you can now choose those options from the photographic styles. It is nice of Apple to give us these options this time around. There is a lot going on in this shot. There was bright sun, I was standing in shadows, and you can also see dark clouds in the background. With all this, the main camera did very well to preserve most of the details in the brighter and darker parts of the image at the same time. Here's another excellent HDR shot. Thanks to the smart HDR4 algorithm, I didn't even have to tap on the brighter part to make this image look so good. The blue sky is perfectly exposed, and we also see some details in the shadows of the brick wall. The HDR mode is not too aggressive this time around, which is nice. That being said, for this shot I would have liked to turn off the HDR mode because I wanted to make the shadows appear even darker. But sadly, for some reason, on this year's iPhones we don't get the option to turn the smart HDR mode off. Here's an iPhone 12 running iOS 15. On this phone, we get the option to turn this mode off, and here's the iPhone 13 with iOS 15, and as you can see, this option is not there anymore. These HDR shots look good, and the phone is very good at deciding which shots needed to be turned on. But sometimes I like to have the manual control over it, and I'm a bit sad to see that Apple is taking that control away from us. If any of you have found a workaround for this, let me know in the comments. Coming to the close-up shots. The main camera is quick to set the focus on any object, but since the physical size of the sensor is larger, the minimum focusing distance for this camera is a bit more compared to the previous iPhones. Once you get used to this, and you know how far you have to be from the subject to set focus on it, then the close-up shots turn out to be very good. As I said before, the sensor is very big and the aperture is wide enough, so the background of these close-up shots have a very pleasing creamy bokeh. To avoid or get rid of the artifacting that you see in some of these close-up shots, you can just move the camera a few centimeters back and this issue could be taken care of. Unlike on the iPhone 13 Pros, the wide lens on the iPhone 13 doesn't get macro capabilities. Having the macro mode on the wide lens of this iPhone 13 would have made its camera much more versatile. There are some third-party apps like Halide which will let you take macro shots with the iPhone 13 as well, and these macro shots also look really good. Moving on to the portrait mode. This is my favorite mode to shoot in on any smartphone, and more so on iPhones because its portrait shots have a very good and natural look to them. Unlike the portrait shots on other phones, you won't find a hard separation between the subject and their background. Edge detection has got even better this year, and there is a gradual blur roll-off between the subject and the background. Everything from colors, background blur, skin tones, details and dynamic range in these portrait shots look excellent. By default, I think the aperture value or the f-stop number is set to 2.8, and I feel that makes the background too blurry and the overall portrait shots look a bit unnatural. So I suggest you change this number to f3.5 or 4, and that will make your portrait shots look a lot natural. Now this phone doesn't have the LiDAR sensor which makes the portraits on the iPhone 13 Pros better, but even without it, I'm loving the portraits from this iPhone 13. With all the computational photography features working together, look at how good these portrait shots in artificial lights turned out. The bigger sensor, wider aperture and sensor shift stabilization means there is less noise in these indoor portraits, and even with complex backgrounds, edge detection seems to be much better even for the hair this time around. Apple keeps on improving this mode over time with updates, and if it is this good to begin with, I just can't wait to see what Apple does to improve it even further. This time, it is easier than ever to take good portrait mode shots of objects. The edge detection is now better than ever, and the phone also detects the edges much quicker than before. You can change the amount of blur in the background while you are taking these images and even after you have clicked them. So if you feel that the edge detection is not perfect, you can just lower the background blur and the image will look much better. Just like taking portraits of people, I love taking portraits of objects as well. And I'm really happy to see the edge detection getting even better than before on this iPhone 13. All of these were the images from the main camera on the iPhone 13. And now let us check out the images from its ultra-wide lens. The first thing that you will notice is how much more of the scene this wide lens will let you get in the shot compared to the main camera. The wide lens comes in handy when you want to capture more of the scene and you don't have any space to move back. Thanks to the new image processing pipeline that the A15 processor brings along, these images look brighter and slightly sharper compared to the wide images from the iPhone 11 and 12. While this lens also gets a 12 megapixel sensor, it is not the same one as the main camera. The aperture is not as wide and the lens optics are also not as good as the primary camera. So while images from the wide camera look good in these bright lighting conditions, you will start noticing some noise creeping in these images as the light goes down. And while center of the frame still looks sharp, there is some loss of detail towards the edges of the frame. This lens gets distortion correction, so the faces, objects or lines near the edges won't get distorted. Apple has been the best when it comes to matching the color temperature and white balance between these lenses. It feels like you are using two lenses on the same camera instead of using two different cameras, and that is how it should be. I have seen some other reviewers mention that the dynamic range has been improved on this wide lens. But I took these shots and the iPhone 13 was just not able to preserve any of the details in the brighter clouds. I could have tapped on the cloud and adjusted the exposure manually until the image looked balanced. But I feel the smart HDR4 algorithm should have been able to do this by itself. I have seen this happen on more than one occasion, so I really hope Apple fixes this issue with one of the future software updates. With that, let us move on to the images which I took in indoors, artificial and lower lighting conditions. For scenes like this, when there is plenty of ambient light around, the deep fusion mode gets triggered. This mode helps reduce the noise in the images and makes them look much sharper. As I zoom in on these images, we see them holding on to a lot of details with very little noise. Thanks to this new sensor, wide aperture and sensor shift stabilization, the main camera on this iPhone 13 doesn't switch to the night mode as often as the iPhone 12 did. In these conditions, even though the light is low, it still manages to take good detailed images without the need of switching to the night mode. The main camera is also doing a fairly good job of keeping the noise levels to a minimum and the colors are looking natural as well. I was surprised to see that the night mode did not come up by itself for this shot. It was there if you wanted to force the phone to capture the scene with it, but even without it, I think the main camera on the iPhone 13 did a very good job with the details in these shots. When the night mode did eventually show up, the auto exposure time was just 1 second for this scene and the resulting image was so much brighter and had a lot of details in it. So with this new camera, the night mode images don't take that long to capture, which is good, because now you won't have to hold the phone steady for 3 to 4 seconds in these lighting conditions for it to capture more light. When the scene looks too dark like you see here, the auto exposure time did go up to 3 seconds, but I took this same shot with the main camera on the iPhone 12 and the exposure time for that shot was 5 seconds, so I had to hold that phone steady for much longer than the iPhone 13. I'm loving these shorter capture times on this iPhone 13. It means I can take images faster and I don't have to hold the phone steady for a long time, which sometimes even results in a blurry shot. Now, as much as I tried to avoid getting lens flare in these shots, there is no way to completely eliminate them if you are capturing a scene where you have a light source directly in the shot. This has been an issue on the main camera since the iPhone 11 and I was really hoping that Apple fixes it this time. But we still see it in some of the shots. I feel it is a bit less obvious or muted than before and you won't see it in as many shots. But it is still there and it is still annoying. I really hope this gets fixed somehow. Now the wide lens also gets all the fancy features like deep fusion and night mode. So if you are indoors and there is ample light, the deep fusion mode helps wide lens take better shots, and in these situations, the night mode makes sure that this lens captures plenty of light. As I've mentioned before, the wide camera is not as good as the main one and the aperture is not as wide, so you will see a lot of noise in these night mode shots. Wide lens by itself is not that good at taking low light images, but the night mode makes it somewhat usable. But you should know that capture time for the night mode shots with this lens is 5+ seconds, so you will have to hold the phone steady for a long time or else the image will be blurry and won't have as many details in it. That brings us to the front facing camera. This is the exact same 12 megapixel selfie camera that we got on the iPhone 12 and even on the iPhone 11. But the image processing of the new A15 Bionic chip makes these selfies look better than before. Faces look sharp, colors and skin tones are good and natural, and the dynamic range is also pretty good when the lighting conditions are challenging like you can see in some of these shots. On the iPhone 12, I thought most of the selfies are a bit overexposed, but I don't face that issue on the iPhone 13. The selfie camera also gets deep fusion and night mode, but I really don't like taking low light selfies with these iPhones because it makes the images look muddy as it doesn't capture a lot of details in very low light. The edge detection now gets a lot better while taking portrait selfies. It gets ears, glasses and hair right in almost all of these shots, which is great because previous iPhones really struggled with this. Since the background is blurred out, these portrait shots look even detailed and sharper than the normal selfies. The blur roll-off, skin tones, overall colors and the dynamic range, everything just looks natural in these portrait selfies. Again, I don't take portrait selfies in lower light because I don't like all the noise that is added in those selfies. Here's a video from the front-facing camera of the iPhone 13. You can see how it handles the overall colors of the scene, exposure and stabilization when I'm walking around with it. You can shoot cinematic mode videos with the front-facing camera of the iPhone 13 as well. Just make sure to use a higher f-stop value so the video looks natural. For this video, I am using f10 and I think the background blur is looking natural. And the edge detection is also pretty accurate from this phone. All three cameras can shoot 4K videos at 60 FPS. And this time, these cameras can also shoot Dolby Vision HDR videos in up to 4K 60 FPS. Look at how stable and good the video is looking. iPhones have always had the best video cameras and the iPhone 13 is no different. The new sensor shift image stabilization seems to be doing a very good job. I have put the camera on my car's dashboard and just look at how stable the footage is. There are no jerks or wobbles of any sort. Sensor shift tech can stabilize the sensor about 5000 times a second, which is way more than the optical based stabilization which can stabilize the lenses about 1000 times a second. Chances are, you might not notice any immediate improvements in stabilization as it was already pretty good in previous iPhones. You should still know that this new tech is working much better in the background. In my camera comparison between the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 12, I will try to demonstrate how the sensor shift stabilization on the iPhone 13's main camera performs better than the optical stabilization on the iPhone 12. Cinematic mode is a very cool feature to have. As I have said before, it is an advanced version of the portrait mode videos that we saw on some of the other phones. It works really well most of the times, but I would still consider it to be a beta feature and give it a few more generations to evolve. Right now, it shoots only 1080p videos at 30 FPS, and hopefully Apple will be able to bump the resolution to 4K next time. With that, we have seen over 100 image and video samples from all the cameras on this iPhone 13. While the daytime performance might not be miles better than the iPhone 12, the low light and indoor performance from all the cameras is better than before. I think this is the phone that you should get if you're serious about smartphone photography. iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max do have an extra lens that offers more versatility to your shots, but the price premium they are asking over the regular iPhone 13 is definitely not worth it, at least in India in my opinion. I have been saying this for some time now, that if you know what you're doing, it is difficult to take a bad image with any of the cameras on the iPhones that came out in the last couple of years. Even without the third lens, I would rate cameras on the iPhone 13 to be just as impressive as the ones on the iPhone 13 Pro. Performance-wise, cameras on the iPhone 13 are definitely an upgrade over the iPhone 12. So if you are confused between the two and your decision comes down to the cameras, go with the iPhone 13. But if you already have the iPhone 12 and you are wondering whether you should upgrade, then I would suggest you to check out my comparison between these two and then make your decision. If you are using an iPhone 11 or any phone from before that, and if you are looking to upgrade, iPhone 13 will give you a much needed bump in the camera performance. So after looking at over 100 image and video samples, what do you guys think about the cameras on this new iPhone 13? Let me know in the comments. And if you are planning to get this phone, I will really appreciate if you get it from the affiliate links in the description section. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel for more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.